Hi everybody, this is Diane. We have a gloomy rainy day today, so I hope the lighting is okay. I have my shade open and I have all the lights on that I can possibly have on in here. So hopefully you can see this okay. I am continuing with the series of a start to finish journal, and it is a reader's, book reader's journal using a vintage school music book. So today we did the cover, and I did a video that was posted. You saw it yesterday. It was posted today for me. And I don't even remember what I did in that video. So it's kind of out of order because I collated the pages. You saw me do that in a video, and we did the cover together. The next thing I normally do is stencil any white pages. We did that one in a video. And then I do my sewing. So I didn't do that just because it's just the way my week is. This is the first day that I'm able to have time to actually get around to the sewing part. So that's what we're going to do today. I do want to mention, reiterate that I have 3 signatures as a general rule in my journals, and each of the signatures has the same sorts of papers in the same order. So the papers are different, but this is a digital, this is a digital, this is a digital, and then the next paper is wrapping paper. So there's wrapping paper in the next, for the next page in all of the journals, in all the signatures, I mean. And then I do the same elements on each of these pages in each signature. Now, there may be a pocket on one page and then a different type of pocket on that page and then a different type of pocket here. But sometimes I do the same type of pocket, so I think it gives a sense of continuity. So you see a fabric flip here, then you go some more and into the next signature and you see another fabric flip, and then you see another fabric flip. So it kind of just gives a continuity to the journal, I think. So I think that's enough talking. I am going to I normally like to put lace on the edge of the first page of the signature or the next one that sticks out far enough. So maybe this one, depending on what I do to the front page. I like to have something special on the front page so that when you open the book, there will usually be a nice little pocket over here and some pretty paper or fabric, and then there will be something special on this page for you to look at as you first open the book. So sometimes whatever I do here means I have to put the lace on a different page. But in this case, we're going to put it on this page. We are going to add something to the front of the page, but today we're just doing the sewing. So I have this pretty vintage trim. It's very, very pale pink, and I'm going to sew that to the edge of my front page. I set my sewing machine at a larger stitch. I'm just doing a straight stitch. Sometimes I do zigzag, but I set it at a larger stitch so that it's not perforating the paper. The stitches are further apart. If the stitches were too close together, it could perforate your paper. I do a back stitch. Some people don't want to do a back stitch on paper because for the same reason, just putting too many holes in the paper, but I've never had a problem doing it that way. I don't have the patience to tie a knot in my thread. So that's what other people would do, is they would leave the thread long and then tie a knot and then cut it instead of back stitching. But I just back stitch and I've never had a problem with it. So there's that. I'm just going to go ahead and sew. Alright, I just want to point this out to you also. This is sticking up. I don't like that. I sewed close to the edge, but the lace is wide enough that this is sticking up. So I'm going to sew again on the other edge of the lace to hold that down. Sometimes a zigzag stitch will help with that because the zigzag is wider. I don't know if it would have helped in this case. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is, I don't know if everybody does it this way, but this is the way I have to do it. And that is putting the signatures all together and working on it while the pages are together. I just remove the page I want to do something on and do what I need to do and then put it back. It might seem confusing when I'm doing a video and I'm shuffling between signatures and putting pages back in and stuff like that, but that is the way. I think this one was going to be next. I think that's the way I have to do it because I'm a very linear and orderly person, and if I'm just doing pages and then trying to figure out how I'm going to put them in the book, it confuses me too much. So you would do it whatever way works for you. If you have all your pages, you know how many pages you want, and you just start adding pockets to your pages, and then you want to try to figure out what order the pages are going to go in. You know, if that works for you, that's the way you should do it. It does not work for me. So sometimes when I'm going to go ahead and use a zigzag stitch on this one, I think. Because it's pretty wide, so I'm having quite a bit of it on the page. So no, I'm just going to stick with a straight stitch and then do 2 rows like I did on the other one. So sometimes I wonder when I'm you know, pulling pages out of signatures and then putting them back in and pulling out another page. I wonder if I'm confusing you guys, but that's just the way I have to do it. You can tell me what works for you. Didn't have my finger on the button and I was trying to push reverse and it wasn't going. Thought my finger was on the button, but it wasn't. Isn't that pretty? That vintage lace. I'm using, every time I make a journal for myself, because this one is for me, I'm making a second one to go in the shop. But I always use elements that I love, like the laces and images that I love, so that I can keep some of my favorites. For this, I'm just going to put this vintage trim on here. I don't think much of it's going to stick off the edge of the page, but they're not. These pages are shorter than the scrapbook paper pages because these are wide books, and so these pages aren't the full width of all the pages in the book. So the laces on the edges of these pages won't extend, you know, where you can see them from the edge of the book, really. If I had sewn them on the scrapbook paper, then they would have extended. But I wanted them on these papers. I have some lace or fabric tabs that will stick out. That's pretty. Now, did you see me take this off? This is a pocket. The other signatures will have pockets, but this one has a lace pocket, and this is a very wide lace. So I thought this would be really pretty. It's sheer so that you can still see the beautiful paper from Lorna Taylor's kit, Tailor Made Journals. It's Shabby Chic Wallpaper Set Number 1. And I don't want to cover up the beautiful paper, but I think that looks really pretty with the paper showing through. So I'm going to sew this pocket on while we're here. I'm just going to sew this pocket on. And then I'll just put a nice large tag. So I'm going to tuck this lace underneath this trim here. So the edge of it is under the trim. Should have sewn the pocket on first, but that's okay, we got it. And I'm going to use a zigzag stitch. Okay, that's pretty. I'm going to trim this edge off. And I was thinking, I've had these tags for a long time. I made these tags with a digital. I don't know where I got the digital, but it's A Frog He Would a Wooing Go. You know that song? And so there's the frog, and there's Miss Mousie, and he wanted to marry Miss Mousie. So I wanted all of these tags to end up together in a journal. And with the green and the story theme, I just thought these would be perfect in here. So I would put one in there and one back here. I guess if I don't have a place to put this in the same signature, I'm just going to tuck it in here for now, just to make sure those tags all stay together. Okay, the next element that I'm going to add, I think, is the tab. And I already have this one on. This one is a fabric tab. I actually did this for the other book, because I've done all of the work in the journal that is going to be sold in my shop. Well, not all of it, but it's pretty much got all the elements in it that I want, so I know what to do in here now. But I was doing this one for this journal, and I meant to sew it at the bottom, and I sewed it at the top of the page. And the button was already on it, so I couldn't just flip it around, because then the button would be on the back side. So I put it in here, which I was going to make one for this journal anyway. So there's that one. So this one is just a piece of vintage fabric, and I sewed a button onto it. So now I need, it's on the coffee dyed paper. So there's the coffee dyed paper. I need to make a tab, and this tab is going to be a lace tab. There's a lot of blue here, so I think I will use this. For this journal, I use this crochet, which is, these make nice tabs, but then when I decided to sew a button on it, I had to be careful to make sure I was sewing through a more solid part of the crochet instead of through a hole, so the button would be on there secure. So I didn't want to do that again, so I'm going to use this. It worked. It's fine. It worked, but I just am going to do this. This is a good excuse for using this beautiful blue embroidered trim that I've never used. I'm not sure if I got it in a Happy Mail or if I bought it at a flea market. But wherever I got it, I love it. So I'm putting the first tab at the top, the second tab in the middle, and the third tab will be at the bottom. So this is the second tab, so it will be in the middle. And a lot of times, if I put my tab on like this and then try to sew it, the foot will push the back side and mess it up. So I have found that instead of trying to deal with it, you could glue it and let the glue dry and then sew, but I don't have patience for that. So I just sew a stitch on the back and get that secure. And then I will fold it together and sew it. Either with a zigzag or a straight stitch, it doesn't matter. I like the straight zigzag because it just looks more decorative. Threads. Threads and static. Sometimes if I have a wide, long tab like that and it's loopy, I don't generally care for that, so I will do a stitch row down here to just hold that loop together. But since I'm going to sew a button on there, that will do that job for me. I probably won't be sewing the button on in this video, but I will pick one out with you. Ooh, that's pretty. I kind of don't want to put a button on there. I don't want to cover up that pretty embroidery. There's no leaf. That's cute. About just a tiny one. It's got a blue center. It could be the center of the flower. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. So I'm going to set this in the lid. And I will just take a needle and thread, and I will put the knot in the end of my thread, and then I will put the needle in here and draw it up through the center of that flower, and the knot will be in there where you can't see it. And then I'll hold the two pieces together and sew the button through all the layers. One more tab. And I have this piece of lace that I wanted to put on. I used this piece for a tab in the other journal too. So this one will go at the bottom. I don't know if you can hear the wind. It's windy. Switching to zigzag. I think I said I wasn't going to be too elaborate with these journals, and I don't know if you would say I'm being elaborate, but I'm adding a lot more than I really intended to. Pockets and things. But that happens a lot. That one is a really cool button. I like that. So that one will go there. So my buttons are selected. All right, next, I think, is fabric flips. So I already have, I did not make any new fabric flips. I had these already made. I just had to sew them. Some of them were just pinned together. So I sewed them. And I thought it was fun that I had some with this fabric with the children on it. Perfect for these journals. So I'm just going to sew this on here. So just to make a fabric flip, I take small pieces of fabric and tear them. So some bigger, some smaller, some that coordinate together. And then I usually put a trim or a lace up there. And then I make it a flip. Some people make them long enough to cover the whole page. Some people make little ones. I make them all sizes. I'm going to keep the zigzag stitch on and just sew this across the top. I think in the other journal I just glued the fabric flips down. But since we're at the sewing machine today, we're just going to go ahead and sew them. I normally sew them, but once in a while I just glue them. They're already sewn together, so you can see the stitching. This one is like a decorator fabric with, I think that's VTech fabric. And I added some yellow lace to the top. So I'm doing quite a few different fabric elements, fabric and lace elements. I don't know why I'm getting carried away. Back here because it goes up here. So this one is really cute. It's just a little piece of leftover paper doll fabric that I used when I made paper doll journals a couple of years ago. And this is the only piece of it I had left. Perfect for these journals. Sometimes when I use a novelty print in my fabric flips, I don't want to put another fabric on top of that to cover it up. So I'll just take a little accent and sew it somewhere lower down, just for fun. Then we have clusters, fabric clusters. I think that's next. Let me just make sure. Oh, nope, I have another trim I want to sew on. So I'm just going to continue with one signature so I have time to finish. So I'm going to take another the scrapbook paper page. It's the one that we just did the flip on in this case. And I am going to add a trim to the edge. So this is another trim. This is one that I got toward the end of the flea market season. And it was the big boxes of, one was a box of laces and one was the box of paper stuff. That was like the most awesome flea market of the year, I think. Anyway, it had these beautiful, beautiful trims in it. And I really wanted to make sure I kept a sampling of some of them for myself. So this one is going in my journal. went down the middle of it, but I think I probably should have done 2 rows on the edges, like the other one. I have 2 more fabric elements to add, so I'm just going to stick with this signature instead of doing all the signatures. Next is the cluster. I already had clusters put together also. I didn't have to make any, so I'm just going to add this up here. And I like to have them hanging off just a little bit. And since they're sewn together, you can just glue them. If you don't want to sew, but you want to add the fabric elements, you can layer the pieces with glue and glue them to your paper. You don't have to use a sewing machine. Or you could hand sew them together and then glue them to the paper. And then lastly, back to the coffee dyed page, we just have a tab on the front part of that. I'm going to just sew some fabric to the edge of the page. I have some fabrics here to choose from. It's going to be opposite this page with the pink and the lamb. So I want something that'll complement that. This is a piece of flannel that I've always loved. Just soft colors. I think that would look nice. I just cut a snip, not too wide, but not too skinny. Looks like maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches, probably 1.5 inches. And then I just tear it usually. That way I know it's straight, although it doesn't have to be straight. And you can put this on just for a section of your page or the whole length. I'm going to do the whole length. We've got a bent corner there, and I'm not ironing, so I'm going to cut it, and it's crumpled up there. So I'm just going to snip it so that those pieces are gone. Just wrap it around the edge of the page. Try to get it even, but just in case the back side is narrower than the front, I don't go right to the edge because I want to make sure I'm catching the back edge also. And I'm going to use zigzag. It's a little long, it's hanging off the edge, but I think I'll just leave it there. Sometimes I like things to hang over. So I think that's all the sewing I need to do for this signature. So I've got time. I can go back and do the other signatures. Just have to remember what's next. I did the tab. Did I do the fabric flips? Did I do all of them? I think I did. Yep. And next is another lace down the edge. I was gonna, it's opposite this, so I picked out this yellow. I think almost all of the laces I'm using are vintage. I'm gonna go to straight stitch and do both edges of this lace. I'm going to go across because I didn't backstitch here. This one I think I will cut off. Then I have a cluster here with a cute little elephant. I want to zigzag that. Adorable. I have a book page in here with an elephant too, so I might. Oh, it's not in this one. I thought the elephant was on. Let's see what the next one is. Well, first we're going to sew a piece of fabric onto the edge of this page. So this is all blue. The pages that it's facing are blue. Let me look at my fabrics. Ooh, I love this one. It's a small piece. I know this came in a box of fabric pieces from a flea market. You could use multiple pieces along your edge for a patchwork effect. Just sew a little strip on and then add another one. Or little squares or triangles or circles, just kind of sew them to the edge of your page. It's always fun to do stuff like that. If you have fabric scraps, it's a fun thing to do with them. We're still on zigzag. And I think that's it for the sewing in this signature. One more. This one I think I will sew further down the page, just for variety. And I think I'll go that way. Maybe it was the other journal has an elephant on the cluster, and there's an elephant book page that I thought I might move so that it was facing the elephant cluster. So I need this page. We've got some greens and pinks here. I think that would look cute. It's got pink and green on it. This was actually part of a garment. You can see there's some seams. I'm gonna get rid of that part. I wonder if I can tear that. I mentioned in yesterday's video that my sisters are coming tomorrow, so I really need to clean and do some prep for that, but I've been in here all day. This was the first day this week. Sorry, don't know what I'm doing here. I'm talking too much. This is the first day this week I've been able to really focus on working on these journals, and I wanted to do a couple of videos. But I had a lot of work to do to get to the point where I could make a video. So this is video number 1. I don't know if I'll have time to do video number 2 before I have to get to work. My sisters won't care if my house isn't clean, but I will. So all the sewing, I believe, is done. I will just have to add buttons to my tabs, but the sewing is done. And so in the next video, I'm going to be making ephemera pieces, the pockets, and maybe some of the cards that go in the pockets. So that'll be the next video. This is usually what I do after I collate the pages. I stencil whatever stenciling I need to do, and then I do the tabs and the laces and the fabric flips, and then I go in and start adding pockets and things like that. So I hope that you're following along, and save this video to a playlist if you want to refer to it later, and if that would help you. I do that a lot. I save a lot of videos to certain playlists so I can go back to them. And I will be back with another video, and I hope you have a creative day today. Bye-bye.